Welcome to the Reinvent Relevance podcast. I'm your host, Jason Mutzfeld, Director of Learning at Merfeld Career Management. Our show is about what we do to help people who want to take charge of their careers. We call it Reinventing Relevance, embracing change to do the work that matters. Today's topic, social media. For career seekers, is this a gold mine or a minefield? Joining me today is Michelle Merritt, the Executive Partner at Merfeld. Now, we're going to split the script, though, a little bit. Since digital is my area of expertise, we're going to turn this around, and instead of me interviewing her or interviewing our guest, she's going to interview me. Michelle?
I'm excited about this today. I actually get to be the interviewer, which is really, I love this. I may steal your job here soon. Now, one of the things that I know we want to talk about is how to use social media in that job search. And you know, when we think of, there are several platforms, obviously, there's tons of social media platforms, but let's start first with LinkedIn. And I know, Jason, you recently launched a completely free class, the No Nonsense Guide to LinkedIn, where you walk people through how to use LinkedIn for their job search. So what are your top 2, maybe 3 tips on using LinkedIn while you're job seeking?
Well, the number one tip would be to fill out your LinkedIn profile. There is actually a feature, when you'll notice this when you're new to LinkedIn, is that there's a little star system, and you can be an all-star if you fill out all the parts of your LinkedIn. The dirty little secret with LinkedIn, as with all social media, is that everything is run by an algorithm. And an algorithm will give preference to people who have all-star status, who filled out their profile completely. So tip number 1 would be, please do yourself a favor and fill out that profile. This includes profile picture. A lot of people don't like profile pictures, and this is tip number 2, and that is take a professional headshot. There's plenty of advice out there. Just go to Google and type in how to take a good LinkedIn picture. Some people think they can just use their Facebook profile pic. Well, not necessarily the best foot you want to put forward. You want to put that best foot forward. So take a good headshot. I know we say in resumes, don't ever include your picture. Well, that's probably true and should remain that way. But on social media, if you don't have a picture, you're not a real person. So be a real person, put up a picture. And finally, the third tip I would say is to be active. Be active on LinkedIn. Consume media on LinkedIn. Consume social media in the sense of go there every day. Learn a little bit of something. Scroll through, like things. Let the system know that you're there. But more importantly, consider going beyond consuming to producing content. You don't have to be a rock star, but share articles. Start there. Maybe share your thoughts on a professional blog post, and keep it professional. That's always important. LinkedIn is not Facebook. It's not Twitter. Leave your drama for your mama and don't bring it onto LinkedIn.
Right.
It's a very professional network. And we want to keep it that way. Those of us who are on LinkedIn daily love it when people follow that rule. So get engaged on LinkedIn. Now, the important thing to remember, your boss may see you on LinkedIn, so check your settings and make sure that if you are looking for a job and being open to recruiters, make sure that you've set it so that you're not broadcasting to the world every time you make a change. Because there will be a time when your boss is going to see, hey, I see you've been active on LinkedIn. Are you looking for another job? And the reason I know this is because this has happened to me.
Right.
You know, I started producing content on LinkedIn, and immediately red flags were popping up everywhere. Is he looking for a job? I'm doing this for something else, but you know, hey, you got to be careful. So it's important to remain professional on LinkedIn.
For sure. And you can find that in the privacy settings, right? Of
yes,
LinkedIn.
yes.
Right.
Yeah, just Google it. Just how to do a job search on LinkedIn while still employed. It would be what I would type in at the beginning.
Right. Or check out the free class that you wrote. I think you address it in the class too, right?
Exactly. Yes. It's just a micro course because there's so much that has to be covered in LinkedIn. And getting you to the stellar optimal level, well, first you got to get those basics down. And that's what the micro course is all about. Getting those basics in place, because you got to have that before you can get to that next. You can't just go from from home plate all the way around all the bases. You have to start going down to first base, and that's getting everything together.
Okay. So, how important are recommendations on LinkedIn? We hear people ask all the time, should I give them? Should I ask for them? What does that mean? And does anyone really care about
I think recommendations can be important for a job
them?
seeker because it's literally a little microcosm. It's sort of a you see them in books all the time. If you ever pick up a book, an actual paper book in a bookstore, you'll open it and there'll be all these positive reviews. Now, if you're like me, you skip those. Nobody reads that. You could very easily just put dummy text in there and nobody would read it. But they might read it. And that's the key with anything on social media. You never know who's looking. You never know where their eye is going to land. You never know when somebody's going to see something and go, oh, wait, John Smith endorsed this person. I know John Smith. You don't know what can happen. There's a lot of serendipity out there in social media land. So I think recommendations are nice to have and keep up to date too, because they have dates on them. So a recommendation from 2014 won't have as much weight as a recommendation from, say, 2019 or 2020. Again, this is one of those things that might send off a red flag to your boss, so please be cautious with it. Now, there are also endorsements for skills.
Mm-hmm.
I am a bigger fan of if you want to prove that you have a skill, get a certification, take a LinkedIn learning class. There's actually some LinkedIn skills endorsement tests out there. Get something from a third party that says you know this. As the whole, oh yeah, this person, I endorse this person for knowing Microsoft Office. That can be really kind of fluff. So
Right.
take it out. It's not going to hurt.
But the skills section is a good place to tuck in those keywords that recruiters might be looking for, right?
Correct. Yeah. Now that's something completely different. That is something where you say, I know um, Great Plains accounting. I know QuickBooks. I know uh, Oracle databases. Those skills are what's going to be. Again, you're right. They focus as key. They function as keywords. They are keywords that recruiters, when they go searching for you using Boolean logic, they're going to type in Oracle and Great Plains and QuickBooks. And when the search engine, which is also what LinkedIn is, a search engine of people, of professionals, when it goes looking, and if it's, you might pop up.
Mhm.
And that's what you really, search engine optimization is important in LinkedIn. And that's where it goes a little bit beyond social networking, traditional social networks like Facebook or Twitter, where if you go looking for uh, Abigail Van Buren, you're going to find probably 50 Abigail Van Buren. So it's up to you to find it. Whereas if you're on LinkedIn, you might want to find just the one particular Abigail
Mhm.
Van Buren who sent a letter to you. And by the way, if there's anyone out there listening to this who's named Abigail Van Buren, this name just popped into my head. I think I I want to say
she's
she's related.
she's not an active client, but you
I
never.
don't. She's not an active client. I for some reason I went with Martin Van Buren, and then Abigail popped up. So
Well,
anyway,
so
yeah.
when we.
But yes, exactly. My brain, it just is like a search engine. It's
Mhm.
randomly grabbing things and putting them together. So you want to make your profile in such a way that you're the person who pops up. Because one thing I always do this with people when I'm coaching them on LinkedIn. Go out to LinkedIn and type in your name. Chances are good you are not the only one of you out there. And you may say, well, my name is Methuselah Melchizedek, and you might find 10 of those. It is amazing how many names duplicate in the world. There's not that much variety in names.
Sure. Now, you said something a minute ago that I want to come back to. You mentioned Boolean searching.
Yes.
What is that?
Boolean searching is just Boolean logic. Boolean logic is if, then. If X happens, then Y. Or if, and you can also use and statements or statements. There are different ways to program your search. Say you're looking for a person, you're looking for a Microsoft administrator in Sacramento, California. So if you were as a recruiter, you're going to type in Microsoft administrator in quotes and Sacramento, California. So it'll know to search for Microsoft administrators in Sacramento, California, not
Gotcha.
just Microsoft administrators. If you type in Microsoft administrators, you can get all over the globe. So
Mhm.
you use Boolean logic to narrow your search.
Gotcha.
Tell the computer you're speaking in computer language. It's not
Understand.
programming, but it's close to it. That'll help the computer understand what you're looking for and narrow in those search results. Recruiters are masters of Boolean searching, and they have the ability to weed through all the direct to find the person that they need to. So it's inherent on the LinkedIn profile person, the person being profiled, that they make their profile as searchable as possible. Again,
Makes sense.
skills, jobs, location.
Perfect. So I want to switch from LinkedIn to Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know that we have time to tackle all of those today, but Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, TikTok, all of the social media, those other social media platforms tend to be more personal, more social. We tend to conduct more personal business there than professional business. And so, how can we use those platforms to our advantage without losing that personal side? And I know we're not here to give a social media lecture
Mm.
on, how to behave, but how do we best use those to work in our favor, knowing that LinkedIn is going to be the place where people look for us first?
Correct. One thing to remember is whenever a recruiter or a hiring manager or anyone who's looking at your resume, chances are good they're going to go first to Google or Bing or whatever their search engine is. And they're going to type in your name and they're going to look for you. And because search engines being search engines, if they find you, they're going to pop up your LinkedIn, especially if they typed in LinkedIn, but they might also pop up your Facebook. They might also pop up your Twitter. So it's important that we all behave as adults.
Right.
Again, like you say, we're not here to lecture, but be careful what you put out there. While it may to you be you being authentic and your authentic voice, while that's encouraged, remember that not everyone is going to agree with you. This is social media is frequently engaged in the process of gaining reach through outrage.
Mhm. Right.
So be careful who you endorse, what ideas you put out there, and if you're okay with that, you don't necessarily want to work with somebody who's not going to like your ideas either.
Right.
But if depending on the level of job search you want to engage in, just be careful. That's really where the minefield comes in. Treat your social media like a dinner table where you're with a bunch of strangers. You wouldn't immediately start spouting off about politics, religion, social issues, anything that could considered uh, offensive to somebody else.
Mhm.
You would obviously be more adult and you would pay attention to what you're saying. One thing you need to be cognizant of when
Mhm.
you do a job search is you never know who's looking. That's the
Right.
dirty little secret. You never know who's watching you on social media and what they can find. So lock down your social media if you're going to be a raving lunatic about conspiracy theories. And
Well,
just remember that will probably come out at some
so that brings me to a question. Do you advise people go back and try to clean up their social media feeds? Or is it just that, once it's out there, it's out there? And so, how do you handle that when you know you've got a job search coming up? And, you know, do you, in these last couple minutes that we have left, should we try and go back and clean it up and remove pictures, bathing suit pictures from the lake last summer, that kind of thing? Or should we do employers realize that people have lives outside of their workplace? Especially today, our lives are incredibly combined. So
point.
what's your take on that?
Well, there's a risk. There is a risk of leaving up, pictures of you sitting on a pontoon with beers in your hand. There's a risk you may not get the job because of that, because it puts somebody off of you, and that's just life. That happens. Uh, but again, if you are in a job search, you might want to consider cleaning it up if you can. Now, everything that's on the internet lives forever. You can't necessarily get rid of it, but we see news stories every other day about somebody who ran afoul of somebody and their social media hoisted them by their petard, and
Right.
that's just life, unfortunately.
Right.
So be careful what you're putting out there in the universe.
Yeah, that's great advice. Any last words before we go?
Uh, just be careful what you put out there. I mean, you want to put your best foot forward. That is ultimately what social media should be about. Now, we're not saying be inauthentic, don't be real,
Right.
but definitely be kind, be honest, be open, be positive. There's a lot of bad things out there on social media. Again, as I said, there's a lot of outrage, and it tends to fuel a lot more outrage, and it just seems like a dumpster fire at times. But think about social media in the positive ways too. I mean, people love puppy pictures and kitten rescue videos and servicemen and women coming home and seeing their surprising their kids at school. We love
Right.
that stuff because social media can be a very positive thing. And keep it positive. Try and put some good out there in the world, and that will shine through in your job search. Because when people start looking for you, they want to, they want to see the good part of you,
Good
the
stuff.
good parts of you. So just mind your message. I mean, that's the important thing.
Awesome. Great final advice. Well,
Okay.
thanks, Jason, for switching seats with me. Maybe we'll do this again.
Yes, thank you. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. To find out more about how you can take charge of your career, visit our website or reach out to us on LinkedIn. We hope you have a great week. Stay safe, and we will talk to you soon.